billions of brain cells are not done forging links with billions of other brain cells. Eventually, there will be trillions and trillions of connections between cells, charged with electrical pulses rippling like lightning storms across the hills and valleys of the brain's deeply furrowed tissue. Every cell in its place, every link between cells carefully organized. Nothing random, nothing arbitrary.
What we would really love to understand is how the brain, during development, generates millions and millions of neurons, sends them to the right position in the brain, and then somehow instructs each of those individual nerve cells to form very, very specific connections with one another. You can think about development like a play that follows a script that is written down by the genetic code, but it has no director, it has no producer, and it has a bunch of actors that have never spoken their lines before. Despite all this, you pull the play off. To me, that's a miracle.
You can imagine the size of the wiring problem. So how is that problem solved? How is that achieved during development? How is it that each one of those trillion connections is made appropriately?
You might think, oh, what a mess. It's just going to be a jumble of connections and wires all over the place. But in fact, the nervous system seems to have a strategy.
The strategy is in the genes. The brain begins to wire itself by following a precisely specified genetic blueprint.
The connections are following very defined rules. You know, go out of the eye, turn right at the optic chiasm, cross the chiasm, head toward the lateral geniculate nucleus, grow into the lateral geniculate nucleus. Don't grow into the medial geniculate nucleus because that's an auditory structure. So you can imagine the first stage of brain wiring.
When you have a cell, and it's called a neuron, this little thing puts out arms just like a tree branches. And as you watch it under the microscope, it's doing feely-touchy everywhere. And it reaches out, as soon as it touches another one, it knows what it's touched. And it's wired itself. And then it begins to stretch through so it can sense the periphery, your fingertips, and your tongue. They all come back through the spinal cord, and they all make their way up here finally to the brain. And the brain is where all these collective properties of putting all this together says, now I can sense the universe. Wow, I don't know what that is. I know that it's these cells that do this. But how does that brain inside the cavity of the head work? Some strange things going on there. So what the frontier, of course, is understanding the brain.